Hi there, my name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television, channel 182, on Charter Communications and Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Again, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. We've been talking about how to start and plant a garden in 14 steps. So this is segment 2 of that video. So let's talk about that. We were actually talking about choosing the best month to start your garden, and it's going to depend on your zone. Sometimes we can get started a little bit earlier here in the South. We weren't able to do it this year because we had a really long winter. Spring didn't want to show its head. So anyway, we're about ready to go out there and start planting. But I did want to mention this, and this is a tip, and this comes from this website. I really like this site, thespruce.com, thespruce.com. Some plants like lettuce can be planted in cooler temperatures of both spring and fall. So you can check that out. I started mine indoors with hydroponics. Look into that. It's a really good system. Also, number 2, learn about the hardiness zones. In Alabama, for instance, we have actually 2 zones. Up in the mountains up here in North Alabama is much cooler, even though it does get sultry hot down here in the summertime. And then also in South Alabama, we got the beach and all that going on. So they can actually have tropical type plants. We can't have those here. They can grow bananas down there. We can't do it here. Well, we could, but it takes a lot of work. But also, if you're living in any other, say you're living in California or living in New York, you're going to be able to grow things we can't grow. Same here. We can grow things you can't grow. So make sure you know what your hardiness zone is, and you can find that by Googling the USDA hardiness zones. That way you'll be able to plant exactly what you're looking for. Pair companion plants. Yeah, do that, because you know what you're going to find. Some plants tolerate no water hardly at all. They're almost desert-like plants, like your aloe vera, for instance. Aloe vera can grow just practically with no water. You gotta water it occasionally, but too much water is just going to kill it, and it just won't thrive. And then you're going to have something like a tomato. Tomatoes have to have a lot of water, along with your cucumbers and that kind of thing. So make sure that you put companions together, because if I were to put, say, a cucumber and then put it next to a high tolerant, say, it's a high tolerant, no water herb, it's going to kill it. However, I could put basil with my tomatoes, and they would grow really good together. Okay, you need to decide between raised gardens or in-ground gardens, okay? There are pluses and minuses, and I'm going to go over those real quick. It won't take but a minute. Your raised gardening pros. Okay, minimal bending down, so that's good for the back, and it's also good for small spaces. Fewer weeds and pests, keeps the soil healthy. Also, raised gardening cons. Okay, more watering may be necessary. It takes time and money to design, build, and maintain. In-ground gardening pros. Okay, lower watering needs, less time and money to maintain, and no construction needed. Now, in-ground gardening cons. It does take physical toll. More weeds and pests, and also soil can become contaminated. Then we talked about vertical gardens. I think that's a really good idea. You're in a small spot. Maybe you are in an apartment building, but you do have a little deck outside. Grow vertical. Make sure you check, though, with your homeowners association and make sure that it's okay to do so. Remove some grass if necessary, and good old shovel works well for doing that. So make sure you remove the grass. Oh, and this is something else we learned with sheet mulching. Involves laying down, it's kind of like a lasagna method right here. So what you want to do is dig up all the grass, and then you're going to lay down an organic material such as newspaper or unwaxed cardboard. Then you're going to lay your white plastic on top of that, and I'll tell you why in a second. So lay your white plastic on top of that, leave it setting out there, and then just takes several months to kill the grass. Now this is if you don't dig up the grass. Again, just put your cardboard down there or your newspaper or whatever, put the white sheeting on it, and it takes just several months to kill the grass. So in the summer, be ready for the following planting season. Now, solarization, this kills the grass and weeds by utilizing the heat of the sun to bake the soil to a high temperature. Lay a clear plastic tarp over the mowed wet grass. and the sun will scorch the grass away in just about 4 weeks, probably sooner here in Alabama, up in North Alabama. And then dig up the dead grass, add your compost, and plant your garden bed. And you don't have to dig for any roots. No doing any of that. Now you can do the manual removal. That's why it's going to take a long time. And that's going to work on your back just a little bit too. So if you got a little bit of time, do it the other 2 ways I was telling you about. Optimize garden soil. So you got to make sure you've got healthy soil. You need to know the pH balance. You need to know if you have alkaline. You need to know if you've got sandy soil or clay soil. There's a huge difference between the two. My neighbors up in Mentone, Alabama have clay soil. We have sandy soil. And so there's a huge difference. You need to know which kind you have in order to know what kind of compost to use and that kind of thing as well. Okay, make sure you select the right plants. So we're getting back now to an original. Okay, so make sure you select the right plants. As you select plants for the garden, you need to do your homework to learn about a plant's specific requirements to ensure you choose the right plants for the right location. Now, plants commonly used in garden beds and landscapes generally fall into 2 categories. You got your annuals and you have your perennials. So let's talk about that just for a minute. A lot of people say, Donna, what's an annual? What's a perennial? What's the difference between the two? Okay, your annuals are plants that go through their entire life cycle in one growing season. Okay, and they must be replanted every single year. Now, many summer flowering plants fall into this category, including marigolds, impatiens. Just save the seeds and then you can replant them again. Also your petunias, your zinnias, and your cornflowers. In addition, some plants that are perennials in warm climates can be used as annuals in colder climates. Okay, now your perennials. These are plants that return every year. They come back, they're friends with you, okay? Their foliage dies to the ground in the winter, but the plant regrows from its root system the following spring. So some perennials are very long-lived, such as the peony, the daylily, those always come back, the false indigo, while others are kind of short-lived. The columbine is one of those. Now, plants categorized as biennials can also be considered very short-lived perennials. Okay, they can be spend their first year developing foliage, flowering in their second year, and then dying after that. The foxglove, the hollyhock, and the sweet william are examples of biennial plants. Now, woody trees and shrubs, let's talk about them just for a minute. So plants that do not have the soft stems of annuals and perennials. Instead, they have a woody stem, and they also have trunks. Rather than dying back and regrowing from the ground level, these plants sprout their new growth from a main trunk or main branches. All common trees fall into this category, as do many shrubs. Now, vegetables, fruits, and herbs. Plants that are generally defined as those that produce edible seeds, fruits, stems, foliage, or roots. Most are annual plants, although some are classified as biennials, like your carrots. Perennials would be rhubarb, asparagus, and strawberries. These come back. I have several generations of strawberries. I bought some, I don't know, I guess about 5 years ago. So now I have the great-great-great-grandkids of those original ones. And then also some are woody shrubs and trees, such as your blueberries, your peaches, and your apples. Now, if there's a chance you might not remember the name of what you planted, consider labeling your plants by writing their names on a small wooden stake and placing the stake next to the plant. That way you'll be able to remember their names should you need to look up anything about their optimal growing environment. That's a really good idea. Some gardeners like to keep a journal that maps the plants and the layout of their garden each season, and that's what I do. My friend Loretta Roger made this book for me. And so that's my go-to book right there. I write down mistakes, and you will make some. So anything I need to do a redo on, I write that down there too. I put what you shouldn't have done on that as well. Okay, so I think we've probably got time for this, and then we'll have to go into a commercial break. So let's go ahead and talk about designing the garden. Isn't that beautiful? Look at all those gorgeous flowers out there. And I want you to look at how they have those arranged. So they've got the higher, and this is really important also when you're planting your garden. So you have the taller gardens in the back. You want it to face the sun. Okay, so the taller ones, you don't want to plant them out to the edge where they're going to hide the smaller plants, because what's going to happen is they're going to hog up all the sunlight, and then the shorter plants are not going to get any sun, and you're going to wonder why they're not working, why they're not growing, why they're not blooming, and why they're not doing the best that they can possibly do. So we have our garden planted where it's facing the south. That sun's going to be coming in the morning. So things like corn, some of my taller stalks of beans and things like that, they're at the back of this garden. And then I have my other smaller ones like, like your tomatoes and things like that can fall into place behind those. And then some of the things are just going to be low growing. I want those to be out at the front so you can see what I'm talking about. So you've got your shorter ones going into the medium size, going into the taller ones. That way everybody gets some sun and everybody's happy and everybody's growing and everybody's looking pretty out there in that garden. So that's going to be your best one. So again, the design of the garden, in addition to understanding the basic requirements of the plants you've selected for your garden, you also need to develop some skills in garden design. And this is largely a matter of personal preference, but there are a few standards and tips to consider when you're deciding where to place your plants. Let's go ahead and go into a commercial break, and we are going to return in just a few minutes. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors, and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018. Jeff McCurdy of the McCurdy Law Firm has been a public service of this area for over 10 years. McCurdy, a member of the Henniger City Council, serves as prosecutor for the town of Sylvania and was named public defender for the city of Rainsville. The McCurdy Law Firm is located at 17326 Alabama Highway 75 in Henniger to better represent his Jackson and DeKalb County clients. If you need to be represented by a true public servant with proven success, call Jeff at 256-996-8701 or send a private email to mccurdylawfirm@gmail.com. No representation is made that the legal services performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020. We're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community
Good
College.
afternoon. We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications Abundant Television, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you so much for watching. We're talking about gardening and what to do to get ready for the spring. We're in the spring right now. We're about to be in the heat of summer. You got to hurry up and get this stuff done. Make sure you know your planting zones, okay? That's extremely important. So if some of our folks from up north have moved down to the south, you're going to have to really learn how our planting schedule is as well, okay? Got a lot of new friends that moved from up north. We're glad to see you out here. Okay, we're talking about design and designing that garden. And isn't that beautiful? I love it. And you can see little stones and little rocks and little fences and all those kind of things out there. There's a pretty tree right there. And then you can see now how everything is growing down. You start with the back of the garden. You got to have your tallest plants. Then you graduate. You go down lower and lower. So from the tall to the medium and then to the shorter plants. That way everybody gets some sunshine and everybody's happy. Okay, also let's talk about mature size. So take into consideration the mature size of plants when you first populate your garden bed. So in general, a garden bed should be organized so the low-lying plants are in the foreground as used as edging. That's a great idea. It's a great way to put that. And then the medium size are occupying the middle section and the tall plants are in that back. This rule shifts a little with an island garden because it can be viewed from all angles. Now, in that case, the center of the bed is planted with the tallest plants. So you got, let's say you wanted to plant a Japanese maple, okay, and you know it's going to grow a little taller than everything else is. Put that smack dab in the middle, and then you grow your other plants around it. So it's kind of like an island. So in that case, the center is planted with the tallest plants with the lowest growing plants going around that perimeter. You just need to decide how you want it to look. Write it down on a piece of paper. You can get all kinds of ideas. You can also get some free downloads on the internet. Just type in free garden design and you'll be able to get some of those. And that way you can specify your garden and how you want it to grow. Okay, now form. Let's talk about that for just a few minutes. So garden designers frequently speak of plant form as a guiding principle when arranging plants. This essentially means that you should consider the overall shape or outline of the plant when arranging them in your garden bed. In general, if you seek a formal look, try to use a precise geometric plant shape such as a squared off edges and neat edging plants. If you want a more informal look, your regular forms are appropriate. Now let me mention this about form. Okay, so when you're mowing your grass, this is something else we learned in Master Gardening class. I think Phil's already been doing this anyway. But when you're mowing the grass, go the other way. Don't have it where the grass is going to shoot out into your garden, because that can also throw some seeds out there for weeds and that kind of thing. And then you're getting weeds coming up from everywhere and you're like, how did these weeds get started? Well, it started because they were shooting up from your grass, mowing your grass. Now, Phil has this little contraption in the back of this riding lawnmower that actually gathers my grass, the cut grass, and we use that for mulch. So what I do is I put it out, or he puts it out, and then we let it get really brown in the sun. I'm constantly turning it over, okay? And then I use that as mulch, and it's a real good mulch, and it's free, So that comes with the lawnmower. Okay, now we talked about form. Let's talk about line. Now, when garden designers use the term line, it often refers to the structures within the landscape or the garden bed, the edges of the garden, for example. It can also refer to the directional impact of the plants. Now, plants can have a general vertical line, and I'll go ahead and show you, I think it was this one, yeah. And so I'll let you look at that so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. So plants can have a general vertical lines, kind of like a columnar evergreen, or they can be spreading and horizontal like a creeping juniper. And I've got some of that. By the way, that can really spread. Now, straight lines and hard angles give it a formal look, while curved lines kind of give it that casual feeling. So I like that look as well. Isn't it pretty? Now, let's also talk about texture. So the term plant textures refers to the fineness or the coarseness, roughness or smoothness, heaviness or lightness of a particular plant. Now, when the text comes from a plant's flowers, stems, bark, and especially its leaves to create variety and visual interest, make sure to use these plants now with different textures, okay? It's kind of like when we were talking about decorating inside the home, and we were talking about having different, like if you wanted, say, to have a wall that looks like stone or looks like brick. Like our dining room, it has one wall is totally brick, and it's also where the fireplace is. So that wall is one color. We have that kind of a darker color. It creates texture and it creates dimension. And then the other walls, think about gardening, decorating just like you do inside the home. So the other three walls are a very light slate blue, kind of a slate grayish bluish looking color. So your eyes really focus in on that darker colored wall where the fireplace is. I've got my grandmother's churns and things out there as well. So you can kind of use that as a focal point. Think of your texture of your flowers also as focal points, is each individual focal point. Now, another thing you want to think about is your color palette. Okay, so in addition to size, form, line, texture, color, one of the most important considerations when choosing plants of both the foliage and the flowers, you need to landscape designers put considerable effort into creating garden color schemes. But home gardeners should not feel too much pressure to follow the technical design principles. So simply pay attention to the colors you're working with so you get that ultimate color of the garden. So think of warm and cool colors, and you're thinking of contrasting at the same thing. So an easy place to start is by understanding warm and cool colors, which have different attributes. So as you can see in this picture we have right here, warm colors include those shades of yellow and red and orange. They're said to excite viewers. Now, cool colors include blue, purple, and green. They're said to calm and relax people who are looking at your garden. Now, this color theory can be used to create a garden suitable for a specific purpose. For example, the meditation garden can be planted with relaxing, cool colors, while you might want to plant flowers with warm colors around a deck intended for parties and entertainment. So let's also talk just a little bit about unity and contrast. Okay, designing a garden with colors all within the cool family or the warm family is a means of creating unity. That's what I like to do. So on the other hand, you might want to contrast warm and cool colors using complementary colors, like color pairs found opposite from each other on the color wheel. You need to get a color wheel, by the way, and that's going to help you out too. And that can add visual interest. For example, purple and yellow are frequently used together, and they complement each other, and that's the contrasting color scheme. I think it's beautiful that way. Using proper planting techniques. So let's talk about that just for a minute. Proper planting techniques, whether it's via seeds or potted nursery plants, is critical for good results. So seed packets will contain detailed information on planting depth, seed spacing, days to germination, and days to plant maturity. Now, the information that comes with nursery plants is more sparse. In general, potted specimens require a planting hole roughly twice the size of the root ball, planting it in the same depth as it is in the pot. A deep watering at planting time and regular watering intervals as the roots take hold. So consider soil temperature when you're doing this. It's critical when deciding the right time to plant. Planting too early in the season when the soil is cool might result in a sickly plant all season long, or seeds that won't germinate, but the same plant or seeds will flourish when started weeks later when the soil has warmed up. Soil temperature is especially important for flowering annuals and vegetables. Many are classified as being better suited for cooler or warmer soil, so make sure you look at that on those seed packets. Okay, so let me mention this. It's also common for gardeners to move plants around if they're not thriving, or perhaps if they want the garden space for something else, or if they decide they don't like the design. Whatever the reason, many plants can be successfully transplanted. So follow the transplanting advice for your specific plant and wait patiently for that plant to adapt to its new location. You know something else we've got to understand, and that's weeds. Weeds are a garden's enemy, so it's important to arm yourself with some facts about them. First, you should know exactly which weeds you're dealing with. Now, this knowledge will continue to come in handy long after you start that garden. Also, many sources of information are available to help you identify the weeds. Now, if you have beads, now this is what aggravated Phil this year. So we have bees outside, honeybees. And so I begged him not to cut the grass for like weeks. And he was out there just itching to cut the grass. And I said, no, not yet, because we got the bees and it's their first flowering of the season. They got to get those dandelions. We got to let them have them. So he said, I'll compromise. I'm going to cut the front yard because I cannot stand the way that looks. He said, I'll let you have your background for just a few more days. Then I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to cut the grass. So we both won in that situation. Many sources of information are available to help you identify weeds. Gardening books, University Extension Services, Auburn's got an awesome website right there. Often have photos of common weeds and offer tips on controlling them. And I totally beg you to go on ahead and get in contact with your county extension, whatever your county is anywhere in the United States. Get in contact with them, okay? They are full of just great resources. I've got to go on ahead and talk about this really quick, and that's installing landscape fabric. It's a synthetic textile that's installed on top of a planting area to prevent weedings from sprouting. It also works by blocking the sunlight that's necessary for weed seeds to germinate. Holes can be cut in the fabric to insert your garden plants, and optionally the fabric can be covered with mulch to hide it. Because the fabric is porous, water drains straight through the soil to prevent grass and other plants from invading your new bed. Now, I'll have to tell you something that I absolutely like better than that, and that's that plastic that you can get. I like the white plastic, because what this white plastic is going to do is prevent disease and prevent the bad insects from getting on your plant. So they like to get under the plant leaves. And so what happens is this white plastic is going to kind of irradiate basically, and so it's going to be too hot for the bad bugs to stay on your plants. So I mean, that's just a generic. It's something that's free. Well, you got to buy the plastic, but after that, it's a free herbicide right there. You're not using chemicals on your garden. And let's talk for just a second too about those nasty pests that can actually come into your garden. So you can control them as well. All gardeners are going to face these at one time or another. Deers, I'm going to tell you what, rabbits. I have found, because every time I planted certain beans, I had rabbits that were just kind of taking over the garden. So this is what you can do. have raised beds. It kind of helps with that. And the concrete blocks make it a little harder for them to, if you use the concrete, it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to get into your garden. Okay, we're going to have to call it a day. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, Abundant Television, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next show.